Hey, what's up there, roulette players? What's going on? This is Lenny, your host, and we are doing a system that I seen on Will Vegas. We're gonna alternating columns and 12 dozens. The bankroll system, we're gonna be using $5 units. He used dollar units. Yeah, his bankroll was $358 or something. I'm going to be using $5 unit. We're going to use a bankroll of $2,000. So let's go ahead and place those bets. We're going to put $5 on the one that just came in last, which is 5, and the one that came out the longest, which would be the middle column, and spin. Middle, not column, middle dozen. That's a 22 black. That's a win. Now, with this system, we switch to the columns no matter what. So the longest one, now 22 just came out. So let's play the 22, which is here. And the longest one since it's hit is the 27. So it would be this one. And let's go ahead and spin. All right, that's an 11 black. All right, that's another win. So we're gonna go back to the dozens, and the last dozen that came out was that one, and the longest one that's hit was this one. And let's go ahead and spin. All right, that's a 15 black. All right, that's a loss, our first loss. So what we do with this is we're going to go back to columns, and we're going to play the 15, which is the one that just came in, and that's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 20 on the opposite of 11, 15, 20, and let's go ahead and spin. All right, that's a 24 black. That's a win. That's a $20 win. So with that being said, we're going to go back to the dozens, which 24 was the last to come in. We're going back to 5 and 15, which would be the same. So it's got to go to the next 11. So then this would be the longest since it's hit, and spin. Now we're up 20 units, $20. All right, that's a 21 black, that 21 red, sorry. That is a $5 win. So we're going back to columns. The last column to come in was the top column. And then the column that came in the last time was the 24. So that would have been that same column. So 15, that would be the same column. 11 would be that column. So this would be the next, and spin. That's a 23 red. Okay, that's a loss. So we're going to go back to the dozens, and we're going to play the one that just came in, which was this one, and we're going to place $20 on it. And then 21, which would be the same column, 24, same column, 15, be this same column, and 11, that's that column. So this would be the longest since it's hit. I'm going to put 20 on that one and spin. That's a 17 black. I believe that's a win. Nice. We're going to go back to columns, and 17 was the one that just came in. So we're going to place 5 on there. And then 23, that'd be the same. 21, that would be that one. So this would be the longest since it's hit, and spin. That's a 14 red. So that's a win. All right, so now we're gonna go and since that was a win, so 14, that would be that one. 17's the same, 23's the same, 21's the same, 24's the same, 15's the same, 11 would be that one. So let's play this one and spin. That's a 26 black. That's a win. All right, so now we're going to go back to columns. And 26, we're going to play the 26. And we're going to play the 14. That'd be the same. 17's the same. 23's the same. 21 is up there. So we're going to play this one and spin. All right, that's a 10 black. All right, that's a win. Awesome. So now we're going to play the longest since the first one, the one that just came in, and the longest since it's hit, which would be 26. That would be that one. So it would be this. And spin. That's a 22 black. All right, so that's a win. So now we're going to rebet. And, oops, we're not going to rebet. Sorry, we're going to play columns now. So 22, we're going to play the last one that came in, which was here. And the longest since it's hit, which is 10, which is the same. 26, which is there. So it will be this. And spin. That's a 21 red. All right, that's another win. So we're going to go ahead and put 5 on 21 and 22, 10. So we're going to put 5 on the longest since it's hit and spin. That's a 5 red. All right, that's a loss. So with the loss, we're going to put $20 on the 5. 20 on the 5 and 20 on 21, not 21, but the longest since it's hit, so it's got to be this one. And spin. That's a 28 black. That's a win. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to go back to the dozens, and we're going to play 28, 5 on the 28, and 5 on this one since it's the longest since it's hit, and spin. That's a 13 black. All right, that's a win, so we'll take it. So now we'll go back to columns, and we're going to play 13, 5 on 13, and 5 on the longest since it's hit, which is 5. So that 5 was that before that one, so that's going to be it. And spin. All right, that's a 27 red. All right, that's a win. Awesome. So now we're going back to dozens, and we're going to play on the 5 there and 5 on the 13. So it would be this one, 5 on that one, and spin. That's an 11 black. All right, that's another win. So we're going to go back to the columns, and we're going to play the 11. And the longest since it's hit, 27, which was that one. So it would be this one, and spin. That's a 21 red. All right, that's a loss. That's okay. We're going to rebet. We're not going to rebet. Sorry about that. Clear. We're going to go to the dozens now, and we're going to play 21. And we're going to play $20 on that. And 11. We'll play $20 on the opposite, 20, and spin. All right, that's a 22 black. That is a win. So now we're going to go back to 5 on each, and we're going to go back to the columns, which is 22, 5 on 22, and 21. Which would be that one. So we're going to play the opposite and spin. That's a 29 black. That's a win. Awesome. And now we're going to go back to the dozens, and we're going to go to 29. Let's play the 29, and we're going to play the 22 opposite. That's that one, and spin. We are up $100 now. That's a 23 red. That's a loss, but that's okay. We're going to go to the columns now, and we're going to play $20 on the 23 and $20 on 29. That's the same, 22. So the opposite, 5, 10, 15, 20, and spin. That's a 36 red. That's a win. Awesome. So we're going to go back to the dozens, and 36 and 23. So the opposite, spin. All right. We're up 110 units. That's a 30 red. That's a win. So let's go back to the 30 and 36. That'd be the same. 23. That'd be that one. So that one, and spin. That's a 0. That's not good for anybody, but that's okay. We're going to go, and now we're going to play on the 30. 20 on the 30, and 36 would be the same. 23 would be that one, so let's play 20 on this one, and spin. It's a 24 red, a black. That's a loss. It's our first loss at this level. So now let's go to $130 on each, which is the last one that hit was that one. So 24. $130 on that one, and 24, and then 30 before that. That's the same. 36, same. 23 would be that one, so we're gonna go 40 on this one. 130 on this one. The biggest thing is you gotta trust the system. I know when you get this high, it's scary and you don't want to trust the system, but just trust the system. Trust the system and spin. And let's just trust the system and go with it. That's a 4 black. I believe that's a win. It is. See? Trust the system. Now we're going to go back to 5, and we're going to play 5 on there and 5 on the 24, the opposite, and spin. Now we're up 195. That's a 30 red. That's a win. So now let's go back to the 30. All right, so 30 would be this one. And the longest since it's hit was the 4. So that would be that one. So let's go ahead with that because that's the longest. And spin. That's a 3 red. All right, that's another win. And that's what we're looking at. Wins 5. All right, and then 30 would have been this one. So it would be this one. And spin. 205. We're up 205. 36 red. All right, that's a loss. So now we're going to go 20 on this one, 20 on that, and 20 on the 3. That's the same. 30. That is the same. 4. That's the one down here. So we're going to go opposite. 5, 10, 15, 20, and spin. That's an 8 black. All right, that's a win. All right, so now that's a win. So we're gonna go back to the dozens, and we're gonna go 5 on that one and 5 on the longest since it's hit, that one, and spin. We're up 215 now. It's a 34 red, and that's a miss. So we're gonna go ahead and rebet. No, we're not gonna rebet. Sorry about that. We're going with the 5, 10, 15, 20 there, and the 20 on the 8. So the opposite. 20 and spin. All right, that's a 9 red. That is a win. Awesome. So we're going to go back to the dozens. We're going to play 5 on that one and 34. So it'll be 5 on this one and spin. That's a 1 red. That's a win. So now we're going to play 5 there and 5 on the 9. Opposite of 9 and spin. That's a 20 black. That's a middle column, so that's a win. All right, and now we're going to play 20 on that one, 5 on that one, and 5 not on that one, but on that one, spin. That's a 26 black. It's a $5 win. Awesome. $5 there. On there and spin. Spin. So 5 red. There's another win. So about $5 there and $5 there and spin. That's a 17 black. All right, it's a loss, but we're gonna put 50, 20 there. And 20 on 5, so same, 9, okay, so 5, 10, 20, and spin. That's a 1, that's a win. So now we're going to put 5 on 1, 5 on 17, the opposite 5, and spin. All right, that's a 13 black. All right. That's a loss, so we're going to go 20 on 13. And 20 on 1. That's the same, so 17. Okay, so 20 on that one. And spin. It's an 18 red. Okay, that's a $20 win. So now we're going to go to $5 on 18. It's the last one to hit, and $5 on the 1. Okay, the opposite spin. That's an 11 black. All right, that's a loss, so we're going to go 20 on 11 and 20 on 18, the opposite, and spin. That's 21 red. All right, so that's a $40 win. A $40 loss, sorry. All right, so now we're gonna go to 130. 130 on 21. I'm gonna put 130 on 11. This one. That's a 14 red. I believe that's a win. Awesome. All right, so now we're gonna go back to 5 on 14 and 5 on 21. Opposite, bet and spin. That's a 4 black. All right, that's a win. So we're gonna go 5 on 4, 5 on the opposite of 14 and spin. That's a 19. That's a loss. So we're gonna go 5 on 19. No, 20 on 19. And 20 on 4, it's the same, 14. That's that one, so it's going to be the opposite. And spin. That's a 5 red. That's a loss. So we're going to do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100, and 30, 10, 15, 20, 30, and 130 on 19, which would be that, but the opposite. Spin. All right, that's a 35 black. That is a winner. Winner chicken dinner. All right. So now we're going to play 35. We're going to put 5 on 35 and 5 on 5. 5 is the same, 19. That's that one, so 5 on that and spin. So 27 red. Alright, that is a $5 win. We'll take it. Rebet. Whoops, not rebet. We'll put $5 on 27 and $5 on 35. And that's the same. 5. Alright, so it'll be this one and spin. It's a 2 black. That's a win, I believe. Nope, it's a loss. Okay. So we're going to put 20 on 2. 20 on 2 and 20 on 27. Opposite. 20 and spin. That's an 8 black. Okay, that's a win. So we're going to go back to 5 on 8 and 5 on 27. So 5 on the opposite and spin. This system, you have to get 4 in a row misses, and it's very hard to do when you got 24 numbers covered. It's a 13. That's a win. So we're going to go 5 on 13 and 5 on 8. Opposite of 8, though. Respect and then spin. That's an 8 black. That's a win, I believe. Nope, it's a loss. Okay, so now we're going to rebet. We're going to go with the 8 with 20. And we're going to go with 13 with 20. So the opposite. And spin. That's a 17 black. That's a miss. Okay. So now we're going to go, let's do it the easy way. 100. And we're going to go with the 17. 10, 20, 30. Go 100 on the 8. That's the same. 13. That's this one, so the opposite. 100. 10, 20, 30, and spin. That's a 24 black. That's a win. Good win. Alright, so we're going to go back to 5 and put 5 on 24 and 5 on 17. That's the same. 6. The opposite. 5 there and spin. We're up $535 now. That's a 0. That's no good for anybody. So now we're going to play 24. $20 on 24 and $20 on 17. The opposite of 17. 15, 20 and spin. That's a 36 red. That's a win. All right. So we're going to go back to 5 on 36 and 5 on 24. The opposite of 24. Spin. That's a 33 black. All right. That's a win. So now we're going to go $5 on 33 and $5 on 36. The same. 0, 24. Same. 17. It's this different. Okay, so the opposite and spin. And that's a 0. That's no good. All right. So now we're going to go $20 on 33. $20 on 33 and $20 on 36. The same. 0, 24. So this one. 10, 15, 20. And spin. Alright, that's a 25 red. That's a win. Alright. So we go back to 5 on 25 and 5 on 33. Opposite 33. Spin. Up $560. That's a 4 black. That's a win. Alright, so now we're going to go 5 on 4 and 5 on 25, opposite, and spin. That's a 21 red. Alright, that's a win. So we're gonna rebet. No, we're not gonna rebet, sorry. We are going to put 21, 5 on 21, and 5 on 4. Opposite of 4. Spin. That's a 6, black. All right, that's a win. All right, so now we're gonna play 5 on 6 and 5 on the opposite of 21 and spin. It's a 20 black. All right, that's a loss, so we're gonna put 20 on that one and 20 on the opposite. 20 and spin. It's a 6 black. That's another loss. So now we're gonna put 130. 100 on 6 and 100 on the opposite of 20, and 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30, and hopefully we get this win. That's a 0, that's not good. All right, so this is the first time we ever have to go to this measure. It's a $400 bet on each, so now we go 400 on 6, 4, and 400 on 20, the opposite, and spin. That's a 12 red. All right, that's a win. All right, so now we can go back to 5 on 12. Whoops, clear. 5 on 12 and 5 on 6. The same. 20 is that one, so 5 on there and spin. Now we're up 665. All right. That's a 13 black. All right, that's a $5 win. So we're gonna put $5 on 13 and $5 on 12. Nope, 0, nope, 6, nope, and $5 there and spin. All right, let's see what we do here. That's a 30 red. That's a win. All right, so now we're gonna put 5 on 30 and 5 on 13. Opposite 13, 5, and spin. 675. That's a 7 red. All right, that's a loss, so we're gonna go 20 on 7 and on 30, opposite 30, 20, and spin. That's an 8 black. That's a win, I believe. Yep. All right, so we go back to 5 on 8. And on opposite of 7, 5, and spin. All right, that's a 2 black. That's a win. Awesome. So now we go 5 on 2 and 5 on 30, opposite of 30 there, and spin. That's a 20 black, and that's a $5 win. Awesome. So now we go back on $5 on 20 and $5 on 2. Which will be the same, so 8, same, 7. So opposite 7, spin. Almost up $700. That's a 33 black. All right, that's a win. So now we're going to do 5 on 33 and 5 on 20, opposite 20, spin. That's a 6 black. All right, that's a win. So we're gonna rebet, and no, we're not gonna rebet, sorry. We're gonna play $5 on 6 and $5 on 33. That's the same, 20. So opposite of the 25 and spin. That's a 17 black, that's a loss. All right, so we're gonna play 5, 10, 15, 20, and on 6, opposite of 6, 5, 10, 15, 20, and spin. That's a 31 black, that's a win. All right, so now we're gonna put $5 on 31, $5 on the opposite of 17, and spin. That's a 22 black. All right, that's a $5 win, so we'll take it. So now we're gonna put $5 on 22 and $5 on the opposite of 31, spin. That's a 13 black. All right, that's a win. So we're gonna put $5 on 13 and $5 on 22, opposite of 22. Unless it's in the same column, then that's 31. Opposite of 31, same column, opposite 17. So we'll put it there and spin. All right. That's a 23 red. That's a miss. So we're gonna go ahead and we're going to put $5 on $20 on 23 and $20 on the opposite of 13, opposite of 22, opposite of 31, which would be here, 15, 20, and spin. That's a 16 red. All right, that's a $20 win. So now we're going to take go back to $5 on 16 and $5 on 20, opposite of 23, spin. That's a 22 black. All right, so that's a $5 win. So now we're gonna put $5 on 22 and $5 on 16. Nope, opposite of 16. Nope, 523. Opposite, nope. 13, nope. 22, nope. 31, opposite 31. And spin. That's a 2 black. I think that's a win. All right, so we're gonna put $5 on 2 and $5 on the opposite of 23. Can't be the opposite of 23, opposite of 16. All right, so that would be that, and spin. That's a 25 red. All right, that's a loss, so we're gonna go 5, 10, 15, 20, and the number 2 opposite, 5, 10, 15, 20, and spin. That's a 14 red. I believe that's a win. It is. All right, so we're going to put $5 on 14 and $5 on the opposite of 25, which would be here, and spin. That's a 5 red. All right, that's a win. So we're going to rebet. Nope, we're not going to rebet. We're going to put $5 on 5 and $5 on 14, the opposite of 14, and spin. That's a 5 again, so that's another win. All right, so we're going to put $5 on 5 again and $5 on opposite of 14. opposite of 25. Okay, and spin. That's a 10 black. That's a loss. So we're gonna bet 10, 15, $20 on 10 and $20 on 5. Nope, nope. 14, opposite of 14. So 5, 10, 15, 20, and spin. It's a 12 red. I believe that's a win. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to go $5 on 12 and $5 on 10, opposite of 10, spin. All right, that's a 21 red. All right, that's a $5 win. Awesome. And we'll put $5 on 21 and $5 on the number 12, opposite 12, spin. That's a 23 red. All right, that's a win. So we're gonna rebet. Not gonna rebet, sorry. And we are going to put $5 on 23 and $5 on opposite 21. So it'll be this one. And spin. That's an 18 red. All right, that's a loss. So now we're going to put 20 on 18 and 20 on 23. Nope, can't do 23. Opposite 21. Nope. Opposite 12. Yep. So 5, 10, 15, 20, and spin. That's a 14 red. All right, that's a win. So now we're going to put $5 on 14 and $5 on 18. Opposite 18 and spin. That's a 5 red. All right, that's a win. All right, so now we're going to put $5 on 5 and $5 on 14. Opposite 14, spin. All right, that's a 4 black. That's a win. So we're going to rebet and not rebet. We're going to put $5 on the number 4 and $5 on opposite 5 and spin. That's a 9 red. That's a win. So we're going to put $5 on red and $5 on the opposite of 14. Spin. That's a 3 red. All right, that's a $5 win. So we're going to put $5 on 3 and we're going to put $5 on opposite 9. Nope, opposite 4. Yep. And spin. That's a 20. That should be a win. Nice. Now we're going to put $5 on 20 and $5 on 3. Opposite 3. And spin. All right, that's the 1 hour. Now I did take a pause, so I'm going to play this for a couple more minutes because I took a pause and I was doing stuff, so I'll be deleting a lot. So we're going to go with 15, 5 on 15 and 5 on 20, opposite 20 and spin. We'll just take it up to 1,000 and then we'll call it a video if we can make it. That's a 15 black. That's a win. So we're going to rebet. All right, not gonna rebet, sorry. We're gonna put $5 on 15 and $5 on the opposite of, wow, these are all in the middle. 15, 15, 20, 3, 9, 4, 5, 14, 18. Yep, all in the middle. So we're just gonna go with the high side. I don't know, I don't remember what the longest since it's hit, but it's been both. That's an 11, so that's a loss. So we picked the wrong side. All right, and actually I should have played that side. That was the longest since it's hit. All right, so I messed up. So now we're gonna put $20 on the 11 and 15, the opposite of 15. And spin. Yep, I messed up. I should have played the 14. All right, that's the 20, okay. Actually, I played the right side. Actually, I did. 14, so now we're gonna put $5 on 14 and $5 on opposite 11, spin. All right, that's a 27 red. All right, that's a win. So we're gonna put $5 on 27 and $5 on 14, opposite 14, and spin. That's an 18 red. All right, that is a win. So now we're gonna put 5 on 18 and 5 on the opposite of 27, spin. That's a 15 black. All right, that's a win. So we're gonna play 5 on 15 and 5 on the opposite of 18, which we can't. 8 opposite of 27, we can't do that either. Opposite 14, we could do that. 5 and spin. That's a 10 black. All right, that's another win. So we're gonna rebet. We're not gonna rebet, sorry. We're going to put $5 on 10 and $5 on the opposite of 15 and spin. That's an 11 black. I believe that's a win. It is. All right, so now we're gonna put $5 on 11 and $5 on the opposite of 10, which would be there, and spin. That's an 18 red. All right, that's a win. So now we're going to do $5 on 15 and $5 on the opposite of 11. So spin. That's 23 red. All right, that is a win. So we're going to put $5 on 23, $5 on the opposite of 18, which is there, and spin. That's a 17 black. That's a win. So we're gonna put $5 on 17, $5 on the opposite of 23, can't do that. Opposite of 18, can't do that. Opposite 11, which would be this, that's fine, and spin. That's a 6 black. That's a loss. Sorry, eating my lunch. All right. And so we're gonna put 20 on 6 and 20 on the opposite of 17. Spin. That's a 14 black, red. That's a win. I believe. Oh, that's a loss. Okay, so now we're going to put 130. 130 on that, and 130 on 6, opposite 6. So just to let you know, there was plenty of times to walk away. As you could see. So let's see what happens here. I would walk away 22 if we lose this, but we didn't. We won. So we could go back to 5 on 22 and 5, oops, clear. 5 on 22 and 5 on opposite of 6. Okay, and spin. That's a 24 black. All right, that's a win. So now we're gonna go 5 on 24 and 5 on the opposite of 22, which would be down here. So 5 there and spin. Will we make 1,000? That's a 0. All right, so now we're gonna go to $20 on 24. And $20 on the opposite of 22. Can't do that. Opposite 14. Can't do that. Opposite 6. Yes. 5, 10, 15, 20. And spin. All right, that's a 3 red. That's a loss. Okay, so we're going to put $5 on $20, sorry, $20 on 3 and $20 on the opposite of 24. Can't do that. Opposite 22. Be here. 20. Okay, and spin. That's a 9 red. I believe that's a win. It is. So now we're going to go 5 there. And 5 on the opposite of 3. Can't do that. 0, 24. Opposite of 24. We can do that. 5 and 5. Spin. All right, that's a 36 red. All right, that's a win. I don't know what happened, but looks like we lost some money. Okay, but anyway, we're going back to 5 on 36 and 5 on the opposite of 9. And spin. I thought we were at 965 or something. I thought we were higher than that. 33, that's a win. All right, so we're going to put 5 on 33 and 5 on the opposite of 36. Opposite of 9 maybe? Nope. And opposite of 3? Nope. Opposite 24? Nope. Opposite 22? Yep. All right, so we're going to put 5 there and spin. All right, that's a 14 red. That's a win. So we're going to put $5 on 14 and $5 on the opposite of 33, which would be the first dozen. That's a 7 red. That's a win. So we're just going to put $5 on 7 and $5 on the opposite of 14 and spin. That's a 0. That's not good for anyone. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put 20 on 7. 20 on 7 and 20 on the opposite of 14. And spin. That's a 5 red. That's a win. So now we're going to put 5 on 5 and 5 on opposite of 7. And spin. So 22 black. All right, that's a loss. So we're gonna go 20 on 22. And 20 on the opposite of 5. Spin. That's a 3 red. That's a loss, I believe. It is. So now we got to do 100. 130 on 3. And opposite of 22. 100. And then 10, 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30, and spin. And that's a 2 black. I think that's a win. It is. Awesome. All right, so now we can go 5 on 2. Whoops, clear. 5 on 2 and 5 on 3. No, 22. Opposite 22. Yes, 5 and 5. Spin. All right, we're up. So after this spin, we're going to quit. That's an 8 black. And we won. All right, guy. So there you have it. We made 1,050. Well, you know, as long as you don't get bad numbers, this is a solid system. But you know what? Bad numbers can happen. However, we did fabulous with this one. In an hour, we made 1,050. I don't know if it was quite an hour or less or more. But anyway, don't forget to like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you never miss another roulette spin. And you guys have a fabulous holiday season.